Hi,
Welcome. This is my
thank you.
friend InvestTony. He is one of the hosts from the Investment Hacking YouTube channel. Um, InvestTony, if you'd like to give us a little bit of your bio.
Yes, it's InvestTony, by the way,
Yes.
just so you know. Yeah, well, I'm from Russia, originally from Moscow. I came to the United States to get my master's in financial valuation. And then I met Dugan when we were working together, and we became good friends and found some um, common interests to share. I started to hang out together, and now I'm glad that you invited me here. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
perfect timing. I got myself a nice mic here because I recently started a YouTube channel. It's in Russian, so probably
Yeah.
not a lot of listeners, not a lot of your viewers, listeners will
No,
be able
not
to
yet.
appreciate it. But
Yes,
yeah,
yes. Actually, that is something I wanted to talk to you about because in it is in Russian, but I have found that there is some auto translating that can be done. So if you're willing to put in the work, the videos can be understood in English. But anyway, just tell me kind of how that came along because I know you got kind of like it's not just you, it's a whole, you got a whole team. So how did that kind of come together?
oh, that's actually a very interesting story. Yeah, well, I have my best friend, an old friend. He's in Moscow, and he had a girlfriend, and they were how you say, like they were together for like over a year, I think.
Hmm.
And she had a large YouTube channel in Russia. It has up for now, I think it has about 2 million subscribers, or over 2 million subscribers already.
Oh, yes.
So, and she built it all herself. I mean, she started it herself, but then she collected the whole team. She has the
Hmm.
editors, designers, the guys who are like writing the scripts, even the guys who
Yeah.
research the material. So, and then well, recently we just I texted her out of nowhere, I don't know, and we just started talking, and she said that she always wanted to start an investing channel, but
Hmm.
she didn't have no expert, and I just kind of half joking, half really asked, "Would you like me to become your expert?" And she was like, "Yeah, hell, let's try." And
Yeah.
that's we tried. And
Mm.
actually, yesterday was our anniversary. It's 2 weeks since we started the channel. We already have over 1,300 subscribers. So there's that.
1,300.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
So that's, I mean, that's almost 100 a day.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good growth ratio. I mean, I'm impressed by the production value, both in the thumbnails. Here, I'm actually going to what are we doing here? So as we see here, I pulled up the Invest Hacking 1.32K subscribers, and I really appreciate. Look at these high quality thumbnails here. Now who makes the thumbnails?
Yeah. We have a guy. He's actually. I learned today that he's a 19-year-old guy. He is actually one of the subscribers of my partner Victoria from the other channel. He just kind of volunteered. He said, "Hey, I'm
Oh,
doing
he's a
the
simp.
I'm not sure, but I know that
Anyway,
yeah, he was like, "Hey, I'm making the thumbnails. You wanna try me?" And she was like, "Yeah, we're about to start the channel, so if you want to try, we can do it." So, and then we like what he did, and yeah, we
very
working
nice.
with him. He's 19-year-old guy, and he's like learning. Sometimes we're asking him, "Hey, can you add some, I don't know, like 3D effects?" He's like, "I'm not there yet, but I want to learn." And
Yeah, no,
it's
I
interesting.
can empathize with that.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's not really in a crypto sphere. He doesn't know much, and he's not that interested. I'm not sure even if he's watching our channel, which is funny to me. But anyway, and I'm just telling him
Mm,
just browse through YouTube. Maybe you can get some ideas how the crypto thumbnails are made. So
mm.
just to
But
get an
he's smart.
idea.
He's building his portfolio with workable
Exactly.
experience. I mean, that's a conversation I've had with a lot of people recently is, everyone has a resume. And for the most part, you might have a couple higher point ones on the GPA, or, you went to this school. The differences on resumes are, for the most part, negligible, assuming experience is similar. But a
Yeah.
portfolio shows a resume is hypothetical, a portfolio is actual.
Exactly, exactly. And it's funny that you mentioned, because obviously when he reached out to Victoria, and he asked her like, would you be interested in me making your thumbnails for your new channel? The first thing she did, she asked, do you have a portfolio?
Mm-hmm.
And when he sent her a link to his portfolio, she saw some of his works, but they were like copycats from her first channel. So he's like, hey,
Okay.
you're using my thumbnails to like put them in your portfolio. He's like, yeah, well, I was just practicing, I was like learning from the
No.
best.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, okay, well, you might, let's see what you learned. So yeah, portfolio is very important, especially in a, I don't know, like in an online age, when we basically, I've never seen the guy, probably never going to see him,
Mm-hmm.
but his portfolio speaks better than all the credentials. Why? I'm not going to look at his diploma. He might as
Yeah.
well be a 15-year-old or a 50-year-old. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. And that's one thing about 21st century. You were running of course it's early, but I would put it in the category of successful YouTube channel, we'll say. You're running a successful YouTube channel with your team scattered across the globe.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Very
actually,
impressive.
and our editor, Victoria and him also have a long history of relationship. He's from Ukraine. That's interesting too. So this guy, he has a family. He's like an older one, but uh, yeah, he's also, he wants to grow. He always looking to do something else. Like today, I asked him, because sometimes when I'm making a video, I'm referring my previous videos. Let's say if I'm talking about some fundamental stuff, I say, hey, if you don't know about that, check my other video, which were released 2 days ago. And then there's in YouTube, there's like pop-ups of this, how you
Yes.
call it in English, yeah, like a proposition, basically the video which
I
you're
think they call them
referring to.
cards. I think they call them cards
Card,
in the
yeah, in
studio.
Russian they call like I don't even know how to translate, like a hints basically, but yeah, cards. Anyway, so these cards, and I used to do it, but then you need to like look through your whole video and then like put them in. And this guy, the editor, he's watching the whole video obviously anyways, and he,
Mm-hmm.
well, because he's trimming all the
Well, yeah, that's
stuff
what he
which needs to
does.
be. Yeah, and so he was like, "Oh, I'll just make notes," So he's like, oh, "Okay, I can do that too." I was like, "Oh, okay, that'd be a huge help for us." He was like, "I don't know why I never thought about it." Okay, but now he thought about it and he offered it, so sure, good.
Yeah.
Obviously he wants to grow, and funny fact that he wasn't interested in crypto. He didn't know anything about crypto before. I mean, he obviously heard of Bitcoin, but nothing more than that.
Yeah.
And now when he's basically like our first viewer, the guy who like sees this material first, he's like, oh man, I'm so interested, like help me this, explain me that. So he's
Mm-hmm.
now a crypto guy, so
That's good.
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Converting. So your role in the channel would probably be best defined as host, probably. So
Yeah.
you basically you write your own material, correct?
Yeah, of course. I
You
mean,
don't actually write it. You do analysis and you present it in your own natural. So you basically go from research to presentation, and that's kind of the role that you primarily fill.
yes. And some videos, like we have a daily show, which is like a news overview, basically. When
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, I need to prepare for it, obviously, like maybe for an hour or something. I just pull up the tabs, and then as I go through the tabs, I explain the viewers what I'm talking about, what it says here,
Yeah.
because lots of people in my auditor, they can't read in English, and the amount of information available in English is more, and it arrives quicker than in Russian, so they
Yeah.
appreciate me doing that for them. And also we have videos which we kind of refer in our back office. We kind of refer to them as a base, like base knowledge. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say I started creating the TA, like technical analysis course, or
Yeah.
something. Let's say I'm explaining in general what is cryptocurrency, or Victoria
Yeah.
made a video what is Bitcoin. So
The block.
the base, like kind of basic knowledge. And these videos we obviously sometimes we script parts of it because it's too technical, or we at least like write a plan, so we don't get lost in the details. But other than that, we don't, yeah, we do it all by ourselves. I mean, the writing and the research.
Yeah. And I think in a lot of ways, kind of what you're doing with more in-depth analysis is kind of what many would argue is the future model of higher education, um, where
Yeah, I agree with you.
there's a lot of arguments to be made. Some I agree with, some I don't, about decentralizing higher education. Liberal arts institutions, those kind of places, those all are extremely important in their own ways. But in terms of maybe higher, more specified education, you're not necessarily, you're starting to price people out because, when you have administrations, bureaucracies, housing, all the costs start to thing. And, sometimes you just have people that want to learn one specific thing. And I think that's not really something that's tenable currently. You have to be at least like a part-time student and take so many credits and so much. But specialized online learning where it's a lot more direct, which is I think what
Mm-hmm.
your channel really represents. And there's a doctor from Toronto, Dr. Jordan Peterson, which we can get into later. Actually, there's a whole big interesting story with him about free speech. But he was looking at basically doing that, creating a purely online college that was like, I don't know. For the most part, when you hear online colleges these days, they're all scams because those kind of mediums have a hard time attracting higher level academics because academics are obviously drawn to the institutions.
Yeah.
So there's an argument that it's very well, because they can't provide tenure, or I don't know. Like the financials were kind of difficult, but I think the idea itself was very interesting, and I think that's kind of where we're going to be heading anyway. Um, I don't think it's necessarily we need to get rid of what we have now. Of course, needs amending and fixing, and the pricing is getting totally out of hand. Um, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah. No, I sorry
needed
to
more.
interrupt you. Yeah, if I may add my two satoshis,
Yeah,
it's yeah, it's I think it depends on the major or the minor or whatever you call it. Like basically, which kind of studies you're attending. I still believe that no matter, well, not, I wouldn't say no matter what technology, but up to date technology wouldn't probably allow a doctor or an engineer. Hey, here's my daughter coming. Hello. Yeah, evening routine.
no,
Anyway,
no,
so I was saying that doctors and maybe pilots or somebody who needs like on-hand experience don't necessarily can be taught online. What I'm saying is there's probably like the opposite of that, as we discussed earlier, like online kind of professions like designers
I'd
or
say
even programmers. I think they'll only benefit from online studies because what's called traditional curriculum probably is up to date because you can update it like on a monthly basis, obviously, and that's what sometimes required for coding. And I know it because my friend is a coder, so he attended like the university 6 years of programming, but he was like he gave up basically on the after a second course and should just start develop his own applications and learn all from the internet because program was so up to date it didn't make sense to go and attend and spend his time on it.
yeah. Well, I think what we find is that a lot of universities and such, because especially at the administrative level, you might not have someone who understands each and every discipline deeply. They're an administrator, so they might not quite understand the nitty gritty and the differences between the disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so you see there's a general trend to want to classroomize, turn everything into your standard classroom environment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, depending on what you're studying, that either makes great sense or makes no sense. You gave
Exactly.
an auto mechanic classroom doesn't make a whole. You gave a great example, actually. Computer science. It's not that it's necessarily bad in the classroom, but it's
It's
inherently
just
not.
out of date. It's just out of
Yeah,
date.
yeah,
It's not
exactly.
gonna work. You can't catch up because
Sure.
the new
Math.
framework appeared yesterday. So today you need to teach about it, but there's no such course. Maybe, but then maybe some dude online who's like really into, he'll just go live stream and explain what he's creating as he goes, and then people who understand the language he's talking, they'll be the first adopters. They'll like learn it right away. You can't get this in the university. I mean, and again, we don't know where we're gonna get, but for now, no. Speaking of, we don't know where we're gonna get. Sorry, but it was a funny thing I was talking about on my today's show.
Mhm.
There is a one crypto. It's called Decentraland. They're building like a metaverse. So it's like a whole reality like world. Basically, they sell the land. You can build the houses, and they build like a casino, and you basically can walk around like somewhat similar to, I don't know, Fortnite or The Sims,
So
depending on the generation.
it's like a virtual world where people just kind of hang out.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, you can hang
is
out
there like
there. There are
combat?
concerts.
Is there like combat or anything like that, or are you just kind of
I
just
don't
living
think
life?
there's a combat for now, but there might be at some point. But the funny thing was that they opened the casino, and instead of putting the non-player characters there as a staff, they're actually hiring a real person to be
To staff it?
like the croupier or somebody who's like dealing and looking after the casino. So and you're like gonna get paid like $500 a month, basically working in an online casino, but with your little avatar helping customers. Wow. Okay.
I think
Jeez.
depending on who you ask, that's either extremely interesting or extremely dystopian, depending on who you're asking. Us people having virtual jobs inside the computer is it's something that people have been kind of afraid. One of the big in the anti-VR thought schools from anti-VR or advanced technology. There's usually two schools of thought. There's either the people who don't know technology at all and are against technology, but you often find the people who are the most anti-technology are the ones who understand it the best. You know, people with doctorates in computer science, they don't, the most high-tech
Yeah.
thing in their house is a toaster. They don't do Amazon Home or all that stuff.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think it's. I won't go as far as saying is with every career or every profession, but what I know, my grandma, her close friend, she's a surgeon, like a brain surgeon, and she says that there is a point when you like spend all your life like working on the humans' brains, and then the more you do it, the more you realize that you don't understand how this stuff works.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
guess the
An expression in English would be, you see how the sausage is made, and you don't want to eat it anymore. Is
yeah, I'm not sure if it's that quite there, but yeah, I guess
well,
can
you
be
just kind
said
of.
to.
I mean, especially I can think of like, and I've heard this a lot from people who have worked, if they've worked at X fast food restaurant, and I'm not going to name my former employers just for
Sure,
whatever.
sure.
Um, you know, you work back there and you're like, wow, there you see how many corners they cut, and oh wow, they just leave the meat sitting out, and all this stuff, and you're like, oh wow, I really don't want to. Now that I see how they actually do it, I don't want to put, you know what I mean?
Yep, I know.
So, and seeing how the sausage is made. All right, I do want to kind of wrap up soon. So I have this long list of questions here of varying
Rapid
depth.
questions, rapid fire, question answer.
No, not rapid
Oh,
fire.
okay.
You're getting just one. You'll see.
But you said, oh, okay, one. Okay, pick one.
All right. Let me pick a good one here. Actually, you know what? Why don't you go ahead and pick me a number 1 through 49. Pick a number 1 through
7.
7. All right. Are we living in a simulation? Why or why not?
Yeah, we might be living in the simulation, I think. I mean, I'm pretty sure every single person who like thinks about the existence of our existence sooner or later was thinking about simulation, that we are actually living in a simulation. All these questions: if the tree falls in the forest, does it make sound or not? Yeah. Well, I mean, it can be a very long philosophical conversation, but I'll try to make a joke, and kind of be there, because remember we were working with teenage students, And one day in our movie club, we wanted to show them the movie Matrix, which for my generation was an eye-opening experience, and not only
Yes.
the graphics, but in general the idea. I don't know. I mean, I watched it when
Red
I
pill,
was
blue
probably a
pill.
teenager. Yes, the pills, and I don't know. I don't remember if there was like a first uh, movie which kind of get me to this idea if we're living in a simulation or not.
Hmm.
But it definitely was around that time when I was thinking about this stuff. And when we showed it to our kids, they were like, "Oh, that's not real. Not impressive. I don't think so. That's like BS."
Yeah.
And then
Well,
that time I realized that Matrix is probably just trying to fix the glitch, and the new generation, they already have a better, you know,
yeah.
the better code. They don't buy
Yeah.
this because the Matrix is trying to protect itself from destruction. So
Well, and I know Elon Musk has talked a lot about this as well,
yes.
and he obviously
Yes.
has a well thought out take on most things. Um, but it's kind of a question of, do you think that humans living in a simulation is an inevitability? Because if you believe that it's an inevitability, that eventually we'll get to the point where, we're in pods, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, where we're working jobs in virtual worlds. And, in the real world, we live in 10 by 10 square foot apartments and have robots shoveling goop in our mouth to keep us alive. But our entire existence mentally is in this non existent plane. And if you see that
Probably.
as, some people see that as more inevitable than others. And if you're in the camp that, uh, depending on how inevitable you see that as, and I'm mixed. I see it as a possibility, but I also see a variety of ways in which it could be, I guess, stopped before it would get to that terminal point of us completely abandoning the actual physical world itself. But
Oh,
if
for
you
sure.
believe that it's an inevitability, then mathematically speaking, the odds of us already having hit that point are much greater than the odds of us having not hit that point yet. Because if you think of all of human history as a measurement time t, so there's the original time t where the world actually existed, and then there's an hypothetically infinite number of time t's after that where it's a simulation recreation of all of time.
Mm-hmm.
So you have one t possibility that we're in reality, and t plus however time iterations have gone by, chances that it's a simulation. So even if we are in round one, if you will, round one of simulation,
Mm-hmm.
it's 50%, if you will. Of course, these being things that are completely untangible to actually have true false knowledge of. But mathematically speaking, if you break it down that way and see it as an inevitability that at a certain point in human history, we hit that point, and then it would basically act as a restart, if you will. And
Mm-hmm.
then mathematically speaking, the more restarts we go through, the higher chance it is that, mathematically, it's kind of basing its probabilities off of its own existence. But since that's the argument we're making anyway, I'll go ahead and make that logical leap.
Yeah, well, I don't know. After reading the book of called Black Swans, I don't know if you read it, but you obviously
By
is
who?
familiar with the concept. Nassim, help me out here. Nassim, I forgot his surname,
I'll
but
look it up.
Nassim Taleb, yes, Nassim Taleb with Black Swans, yeah. So he's talking about that probabilities are basically, you never know. Basically, you can apply math as much as you want, but then there is a black swan which can be accounted for. But yeah, to
I
make it
think I think there's the English version of that is known as the butterfly effect.
Not quite. Black Swan is something which you can. It's actually in English, and I listened it in English.
Hmm.
And Black Swan is just a very, very, very rare occasion. Butterfly effect is when you do something small and then it has effect, like it grows over time, and But
That's kind of what it is. The cultural zeitgeist understanding of butterfly effect is actually a little bit off. Are you familiar with the term determinism? This
not
idea that
quite, no.
basically the idea that there's no such thing as free will, and that everything
Okay.
is predetermined based on, like, genetics and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. You can basically predict anything that's going to happen. It's, inevitable. But the butterfly effect is that you can never purely calculate it mathematically, because there'll always be something going on that escapes your calculation.
Yeah, it's similar to chaos theory, kind of, because
Yeah.
there's too many
Yeah.
inputs. Yeah, okay. But Black Swan is still a different thing, and I recommend you reading this book if you haven't yet.
Oh, well,
So
yeah, I will.
anyway, getting back to the inevitability of us living in tiny little blocks, and then us, like our mind, living in a simulation. I think that we are definitely moving into that direction because the population is growing in a geometrical progression, and the human's mind can't really appreciate the geometrical progression. The number is going to grow much quicker than it seems, So the time which took us to get from 1 billion people living to 7 billion people living, it was like, I don't know, 100 years, let's say, from the top of my head. But for us to double 7 billion to like 14 is going to take, I don't know, but nothing compared to the 100
It's
years.
exponential.
Pretty close. It's exponential. It's yeah. So there won't be simply enough space for us to leave. And there's another book from Russian author. It's called Future, and he exactly explains this kind of environment. So, but getting back to the black swans, we never know. There might be a world war or a pandemic of deadly virus or whatever, which will basically take us back a few hundreds of years in amount of population or technology or something. So I don't know how inevitable we are getting there, but everything can happen basically. And I'm saying, but if nothing happens, then I guess we'll be there pretty soon. Maybe you and I, when we'll be old, if we make it there, we'll be already our grandkids, instead of giving us to a nursing home, will just plug us into the matrix and let us rot in the corner. And so,
well, I guess it kind of, I know you got to go soon, so I will kind of, but branching off kind of what you were discussing about the reasons why it might come about, I guess the question to be posed is, so we talk about this inevitable future of people living basically entirely in a virtual world. Is that inherently a bad thing? Can humans live a fulfilling life purely in the mental? Does actual existence of things, I don't know. What do you think would be inherently a bad thing? I don't think anyone is going to argue that it'd be inherently a better thing. I think because of what we talked about, the impossibility of mathematically calculating reality, you end up with, in my opinion, a reality that would be, you can never fully simulate reality. So realness will always be just that much realer, for lack of better words. So I don't think anyone's going to argue that it's inherently better that we all be living in a mental, but do you think it's inherently worse, or could it be maybe a mixed bag of good bad?
oh, of course, it's always mixed bag of good and bad, because it's hardly anything which is bad or good from all perspectives. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that the human is more in its mind and, I guess, soul, but that's I guess a topic for another conversation. But other than body, because our body is flawed, but our mind is pure. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. And yeah, as you mentioned, Elon Musk, he's working on Neuralink to improve the bandwidth between a human and a computer. So it's all. I think it's all movement in that direction. So we'll see. We'll see.
I just know, I feel like a lot of people would, I mean, just the very imagery of it, of people living in little tiny, would just, some people would just kind of inherently define that as dystopian. I think just through the mental imagery of what it conjures. But, if we aren't even seeing that, if we're mentally, well, and, this question itself is very much brought up in the Matrix with, oh gosh, what's his name? The rat, Cypher.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says, plug me. I don't care. He eats the steak and he says, I don't care if it's real because it makes my mind happy. And
exactly.
Is he? I
Yeah,
mean, obviously he's
and as
wrong.
you s-
He's wrong for what he did for selling out his people, but is he wrong in his argument? I don't think anyone can say yes
sure,
or no.
sure. Yeah, plus what you're saying, yeah, you say it looks bad, obviously, when we see all these cells and the people are there like in some kind of liquid or whatever to preserve their flawed bodies from rotting. Of course it looks bad, but the good thing is nobody sees that, so
So, and you could argue that it's no worse than what a lot of people live in today, if not better.
yeah,
So,
fair enough.
no, it's
Fair
food for
enough.
thought. But all right, man, we'll wrap up here for today. Good night,
All right,
and
thank
we
you,
will talk again soon, my
thanks for
man.
inviting me to your podcast. Yep,
Thanks for being
good
on. We'll
luck.
talk again soon, my man. All
Sure,
right,
bye.
right.